Hey guys, it's Antonio again. Thank you for watching this video and for following our page. Today we have part 2 to the Hebrews 11 series that we're doing. And today's devotional is going to be talking about Enoch. And Enoch is a very interesting character. We really don't have a lot about him in the Bible. I found 3 significant places. But other than that, there's not some extended text about him that we have in the Bible. So to begin, let's go to Hebrews chapter 11, if you're not already there. Hebrews chapter 11, and we'll be reading verses 5 and 6. By faith Enoch was taken up so that he should not see death, and he was not found because God had taken him. Now before he was taken, he was commended as having pleased God. And without faith it is impossible to please him, for whoever would draw near to God must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who seek him. So especially in verse 5, we have the writer of Hebrews talking specifically about Enoch. And it's because of Enoch's faith that he didn't die. It mentions that in verse 5. It says he was taken because he was commended as having pleased God. And so he had a relationship with God that was unlike really any other person at that time. Because as far as we know, Enoch was the only one taken. Now, God took him up, meaning that Enoch did not die, which is actually pretty interesting because just about everybody who's ever lived has died, even Jesus. But because of Enoch's faith, because of Enoch's relationship with God, he did not have to suffer death. Now we first hear of Enoch, or rather we first read about Enoch in Genesis chapter 5. In Genesis chapter 5, beginning in verse 21. When Enoch had lived 65 years, he fathered Methuselah. Enoch walked with God, and after he fathered Methuselah 300 years, and had other sons and daughters. Thus all the days of Enoch were 365 years. Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. So, up until this point, we kind of see everybody's been living 800-something years, 900-something years. Enoch only lives for 365, which sounds like a lot for today, but for back then it really wasn't. So after living 365 years, God took him up. And we don't know a whole lot about what Enoch did specifically that was so special to receive such a blessing like this, to be able to be so close with God, to walk and to be one with God, that he was taken up to heaven with God and did not have to face death. But something that I found interesting while I was preparing for this devotional is that in Jude, Enoch is mentioned. That's right, you heard me correctly. The book of Jude mentions Enoch. So if you're looking for the book of Jude, it's a very small book. It's only 1 chapter, and it's right before Revelation, which is the last chapter in the Bible. So it's not too difficult to find. So Jude chapter 1 is the only chapter, verses 14 through 16. It was also about these that Enoch, the 7th from Adam, prophesied, saying, Behold, the Lord comes with 10,000s of his holy ones, to execute judgment on all, and to convict all the ungodly of all their deeds of ungodliness that they have committed in such an ungodly way, and of all the harsh things that ungodly sinners have spoken against him. These are grumblers, malcontents, following their own sinful desires. They are loud-mouthed boasters, showing favoritism to gain advantage. So right before those verses, Jude is talking about people, false teachers specifically, but people who speak against God, people who say and blaspheme God. And so here he pulls out a quote from Enoch, and basically Enoch is calling these people out. And he uses a word that he just repeats constantly in different forms, but the word is ungodly. He says in their ungodliness, in their ungodly way, these ungodly sinners. And so that the first thought that came to my mind when I was reading that is that Enoch wasn't alone. We sometimes think that in the beginning of the world there was maybe tens of people, maybe a couple hundred people, but whatever it was, there were enough people that there was sin, and sin was rampant. And that Enoch was so separate from these people as someone who was holy, as someone who was godly, that God called him to him. And so, even in that environment, Enoch was found faithful to a point that very few other people have been faithful. I think, if I am correct, I think it's Elijah. I always get Elijah and Elisha confused, but I think it was Elijah that also didn't die. I might be wrong. It might be Elisha, but one of those two also didn't die, and they were taken up in a whirlwind or something like that. But we have Enoch now that we're talking about. It must be something about E-names, that they're just really good people. We have Enoch, who in a rough environment, in a tough environment, remained faithful to God. And so for us today, we have the ability to be faithful just as Enoch was faithful. If you go back to Hebrews chapter 11, we'll reread verse 6. And without faith it is impossible to please him, for whoever would draw near to God must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who seek him. So Enoch's faith, especially in trying times, drew him closer to God. And it was his faith that stood the test, and that he was able to be called before God, because as it says at the end of verse 5, he was taken, and now before he was taken, he was commended as having pleased God. And so for us to please God, we must have faith. We must have faith that God exists and that he rewards those who seek him. Hebrews 11 verse 6. And so I want to ask you, where are you in your walk with God? I want you to really sit down and analyze this. Maybe you have to write it out. Maybe you have to make a chart about things you do well spiritually and things you don't do well spiritually. And use that as a way to kind of grade yourself and see where you are. What are some things you have to fix? What are some things that you're doing very well at? And in those things, if you found something in your walk with God that has benefited you and has helped you tremendously, please leave it in the comments below so that other people who watch this video can, one, be encouraged by that, and two, can maybe take something and add it to their arsenal to fight the devil and to be better, faithful Christians. And if you need prayers or you need advice and you need help, you can also leave those questions in the comments section below as well. So guys, I hope this was very helpful for you. Enoch is a really interesting character in the Bible, and this definitely has some great application for us. So walk with God, and just like Enoch, you can go far, guys. Thank you so much. Please share this video. If you need a refresher of the passages that we referenced and that we read, they will be included in the description, as well as links to our Facebook and Twitter page. Thank you so much, guys, and have a great day. God bless.